The social science researcher in me loves doing this. So if it gets too much for you guys, like I just like love like going down a rabbit hole and being like, look what I pulled up. But I thought it might be fun to look at some of the different cultures and how they thought of the new year, when they thought of the new year, what they did about it, and just to kind of use it to inform us about this global across time and space interconnected humanity that we are. So begin at the beginning, or at least the way a lot of historians talk about it, Mesopotamia. Um, so Mesopotamia is in modern day Iraq. They had a celebration called the Akitu Festival. Um, Typically their New Year was during the vernal equinox, which was in late March. And they did it because of the sun's position in the sky, and they were welcoming in the renewal of life. They were welcoming in the life force energy of the sun. It was also a time they honored the god Marduk. There's a picture here on the left. I'm not really a big fan of Marduk's myth, but there's Marduk. Um, and there's Tiamat. And there is the part of the myth. I'm not really a fan of it because I haven't spent enough time with it to figure out what part of it feels true to me. But the idea is that there's this Tiamat is a primordial goddess and older than Marduk, and I guess somebody tries to kill her or kills her kids, and she goes crazy and she starts killing everybody. So then she has to be killed. So one of my hot buttons is crazy lady hot button, and I'm always like, what actually happened? But anyway, Marduk was the god that they celebrated during the new year. We couldn't do this without looking at Egypt. So, as you know, like the heliacal rising of Sirius is when they celebrated the new year. That was associated with the flooding of the Nile. That typically happened in mid-July. And the flooding of the Nile was about the fertility of the land. And I even sense, that the pyramids were probably power plants of sorts, and so the moving of the water would also somehow energetically do something to those pyramids. Um, but it's interesting, they also believe that the flooding of the Nile was a manifestation of the tears of Isis, who was mourning the death of her husband Osiris. And then we see on the left here, here's a statue. Isis is on the right, Osiris is in the middle, and Horus is over there on the left. Um, During the new year, the Egyptians typically left offerings to Osiris. The myth is that his evil brother Set put him in a coffin and threw him down the Nile River, and then he died, but he didn't die, and then he put his. We're not going to go into it, but the idea that the Egyptians celebrated the New Year in mid-July. Again, it was kind of associated with agriculture, as was with Mesopotamia. Ancient Greece. This is also an interesting. They celebrated the New Year in July, and it was called Hecatombaion after Hecatome, and this was a procession of sacrificial bulls. And actually I dig a little bit about it. It was the sacrifice was almost like a paying homage, like you showed your wealth. It was like giving money or something like that when they sacrificed their bull, because the bull was the one who brought more cows and fertilized the calves, and so it was again kind of associated with fertility and food and sustenance. So this began just after midsummer, and with the first sighting of the crescent moon after the summer solstice. So they again used the this all ancient civilizations, we know this, used astrology and used stars, and that's how they understood the cycles of time. Interestingly enough, the calendar that the Athenians used, they had a lot of calendars, but this one was called the Attic, and it was mainly to keep track of all the different jubilations. And if you look up the Attic, it's like in the month of Hecatombaion, there's like 20 different celebrations that go on at any time. And so the Greeks were known to be very celebratory um, people. And then we go to Rome, one of my favorite things to soapbox about. Initially, in ancient Rome, I guess you could call it, they celebrated their new year on March 1st. They had a lunar calendar. But then we have Julius Caesar, and he created the calendar that is kind of the calendar that we know today. And so January 1st was this is when we got to have January 1st as the start of the year. Interestingly enough, though, in the earliest Roman calendar, there was something called the Ides of March. The Ides of March would have been the first full moon of the new year, but the first full moon would have been in keeping with the lunar calendar in March. But in modern times, when we hear the Ides of March, at least for myself, I know the Ides of March as when Julius Caesar was murdered by the people in his government. That's coincidence. That's actually got nothing to do with what the Ides of March actually are. The Ides, they told time in a different way. We'll get to that in a second. So it's under Julius Caesar. January is named Janus, and the interesting thing about that, Janus was the Roman god of gates, transitions, and beginnings, and he was depicted with two faces, one looking back and one looking forward. So it was also kind of shows the dualistic nature. We were talking about the importance of the number three earlier, and how the divinity of the number three, the past, present, future, right? But here we have Janus being forward and back, and it's almost like the year ends and then this year starts. Oh, I didn't put anything about it. Okay, well, I'll just mention here that the ancient Romans initially they didn't count time the same way. They used Ides was known as the center of the month, but it wasn't. They didn't go the first, second, third, fourth, fifth. They had three different names, and then they associated time as to how close things were to the different names. One of those names was Ides. I love this because I love me some dragons, and so we know Chinese New Year is a lunar celebration, right? It's the one of the oldest and most widely still celebrated festivals. That's kind of the cool thing about Chinese culture is they still have all this ancient information right there in modern day world. So 4,000 years, first day of the year falling on the second new moon after winter solstice. This is interesting. The myth of neon. I didn't quite know this. I knew about the dragon dances, and when I lived in Hawaii, there's a lot of Chinese people, like the amount of red firecrackers that go off on the Lunar New Year is seriously deafening. Like in the streets, you cannot see the streets. This is on Oahu. The streets are not black, they're red because they set off so many firecrackers. The reason why they do this is because of this neon. And this is how neon is a fearsome monster who would terrorize villagers precisely on the new year. So they made loud noises, they did firecrackers, and they wore the color red. And they also would do dragon dances. So that's the kind of the meaning behind all the things that we see in the modern day world. And then here is one of my favorite things, the Mayan calendar and the Mayan calendar cycle of time. And so they had we don't even understand quite how much they knew about astronomy and mathematics, but their calendars were linked to cycles of the moon, the sun, and the stars. They had a lunar and a solar calendar. And the Mayan New Year was not celebrated on a fixed date the way everything else that I've just talked about was. They had a long count calendar. And they believed that this long count calendar was actually 144. They also had different packets of time. The largest packet of time was called a Bakhtin, and the Bakhtin cycle was 144,000 days. That's how long their quote unquote year was. So if you remember me talking about the end of the world that happened in December 21st, 2012, this was when the calendar ended. But I want to share something that I found from another bookstore, but people, mistakenly thought it was the end of the world. If we think about it energetically, it wasn't the end of the world. It was the end of an era. It was the end of a cycle of time. And now we're in the beginning of a new cycle of time. This cycle of time, according to the Mayans, began in 2012. So we're if it's a 144,000 year cycle, we're at the very, very, very beginning of it. So I just kind of wanted to offer that this wasn't the end of something. This was the beginning of something. And I also wanted to share something. Another thing that fell off the bookshelf for me at East West Bookstore. I used to like to go. So this was like the only metaphysical bookstore in the Bay Area. They say it's the biggest in the US. I'm not sure because bookstores are kind of hard to come by, but I used to love the used book section. And so this is something else that literally fell off the shelf. It's called Dreamspell, The Journey of Time Ship Earth. And it has one of their long count calendars. And you get to know like what all these things mean. And I literally, couldn't understand it when I got it, and I still don't understand it, but I think I might start to look into it, because it even tells you, it has a map of the Earth, and they did their little drawings and their calendar count according to, so I mean, that's astrocartography right there. That's literally the energies of the planets coming to the Earth. And then there's like so many different ways that they looked at time. They had something called the galactic compass. I'm going to look into this and see if I can understand it, and maybe we'll find something interesting about it. There's more information I want to present on the Mayan long count calendar, but I don't think it's worthy of the New Year's idea today, because I wanted to keep it really along the idea of this is the end. You know, Vanessa and I were talking about how you can really feel that this is an end of an era that's happening right now. And I think there is something significant about January 1st, because collectively, this is the world that we live in, and we are the creators of this world, right? So if everybody is conditioned right now to celebrate, this is the beginning of the new year, even if there's lots of different ways to cut that cake, there's a lot of people that are doing something about a new cycle of time right now. And then we have the astrology of what's going on, and we know that 2025 is going to have a lot of, Pluto just shifted signs. 2025 is going to have 3 more planets doing things that they only do every few hundred years, and they're all happening to align this year. So we're going through this time again of endings and beginnings and transitions. So I also think there's something to the new year, but there's also just something beyond linear time and space that we can kind of feel. So I wanted to have us do an intention setting meditation, but before we get to the intention part, I thought I wanted to start or share. Let me stop my share for a second. Anybody have any questions or comments about that, or things that they know about the new year?
That was so helpful, Lisa, with the Mayan thing, because I don't think I've ever, so I don't think I've ever actually understood it to be like that. Like it was 144,000 like days. And it's the cycle. Like it's not like they sat there, and I've watched a lot of stuff. They've never really said that. They've never really said like, oh, this, like it just sort of was like this date in mind that the Mayans had. Now it makes sense that it was actually like just like the cycle last date. I don't know. I just, the way you explained it was really brilliant.
Yeah, and I want to thank you for saying that, and that encourages me, because I think I want to keep going on that next Sunday, because they had a solar calendar and they had a lunar calendar, and that to me makes so much sense, right? Because it's like masculine and feminine. We need them both, folks. You know, and I also liked the idea of coming into how a lot of ancient people use the lunar calendar, because you know me, I love my lunar calendars. I didn't make one this year, but I love that. But then the long count calendar, that's why I think this book fell off the shelf. They had this is a little placard of all their little symbols that they use. And then they also have these little symbols that they use. And you could see these are just dots and lines, but they're counting things, right? And then they did it in the picture of the Mayan calendar. This is like they would overlay things, and this is just like things turn. And I don't even know if I know, but I will tell you that had different packets of time. They had a name for a day. They had the next packet was maybe, for example, 10 days, and then it would get, there's like 5 different types of packets of time. The Baktun was the longest one, which was their year as we understand it. So that's why it makes sense that everyone's freaking out about nothing. It's like, you know, it's like December 31st. Oh my God. You know, we know January 1st is going to be a new year. So I feel like there's more to say on that. And I just kind of thought yesterday, make sure that people are interested in it before you like make them go down your rabbit hole with you.
I like your rabbit holes. Thank you. No, that was really helpful, because I don't think I've actually understood why that 2012 date was significant. I mean I knew it was significant for me. I know it's significant for like a lot of reasons, but I never knew that it was part of a bigger like mathematical thing. Like, oh no, it's part of a 144-day cycle. It's always been sort of like, it's never been said. At least I watch a lot of Gaia and stuff. I've not seen it, someone say that. So that this is really helpful. It puts it all together.
Yeah, it makes my instinct before I really got into that was like, okay, it's just the ending of an era. It's just, you know what I mean? And of course, there's going to be a new era because I understood that from studying about their very foundational gods. There's these things that they said they would do, and it's just ushering in a new age of light, or it's a yuga, or like the Kali Yuga and the this yuga, like these are big cycles of time. And so of course it would be. So then the thing I love about it though that I kind of want to explore is like, okay, so 2012, like we're 12 years in. We're 12 years into a 144,000 year cycle. Isn't that kind of neat? Like, of course, it kind of fits with this idea of us coming into a new age and really starting to feel it, and also being called to, if you think about it, like it's like we're a little kid who's going to live to be 144,000 years. So maybe today was the day our eyes opened or something. Do you know what I mean? Like it was, so of course we're not just activated but we're feeling the call to embody, I think, whatever it is that is this cycle.
Yeah, that's 394 years.
Oh, look at you. I love it.
394.52. If you go by 365
Okay. I love it.
days per year. It's not exact.
That would be,
It's an
well,
estimate.
that's the other funny thing. I remember when I was a kid, I don't know if I've told you guys this, I blurted out a couple things that I never really understood. So I said the word calculator too early, and my dad got really excited. He's like, "What do you want to be, a lawyer or a doctor?" And I was like, "I want to be a farmer and an Indian." And if you look at me now, you see that my little kid self. But the other thing I used to run around saying is that I'm going to live to be at least 200 years old. I would just walk around saying that. And everyone's like, "You're no, no, no." And so when you said that, I was thinking about the idea that what if people lived that long? I don't know. That's way out in left field.
Lisa, I don't think that's off field because I think that the technology is like the science is catching up to that.
Okay.
Honestly, I do think it's going to be very possible. That's just my hype. I've always said that too. So I mean, I think you're absolutely onto something.
Yeah, I think about when I think, and even when I start to study herbs and the illness and what's the cause and what's the solution, and how the older solutions and the purer, simpler solutions, like there's just, I think you get what I'm not even sure what but it feels true. So thank you. Okay, I want to get you guys' opinion on one more thing before we go into a meditation. And this is, I started to get this 28 days of mindfulness together. And initially I thought I was gonna, so we're gonna do, there's gonna be 7 days. Sunday's gonna be the live gathering. Monday, we're gonna do a breathing meditation. Tuesday's gonna be body scan. Wednesday's gonna be loving kindness. Thursday's gonna be a mindful walking. You don't have to do all this. I'm just gonna offer it. And then I thought, and then we're gonna do because I was thinking, let's do the elements, and week 1 will be the air element into all of these. Week 2 will be the fire. Can we just do the first 28-day challenge without the elements? Would that be okay for you guys? Okay, because I feel like when I started to do this, I think it might be really good for us to get to know what all this is, if we feel that we want to, and like just know it for what it is without an extra layer. And then maybe if we feel called to do it again, we can like add another layer. That feels to me like the right way to experience something versus confound it and confuse it. Does that make sense? Okay. So now let's get to our meditation. Do, do, do. I liked this picture of this little bowl because it reminds me of like just something so simple. So if we're going to do an intention setting meditation to really, this is our container. If we're considering our new year, what are we going to be putting into our container or our altar? But before we get to the intention setting aspect of it, I wanted to just kind of kick off the mindfulness with doing a meditation that's based on our breath. So I don't think you can hear my dogs. I hope not. So let's go ahead and just take a second to close our eyes, and we're all likely seated or standing, and just feel that your spine is straight. And begin by breathing in through your nose, nice deep breath, and exhale slowly through your mouth. And as you deepen your breath, feel your body respond. Feel your body begin to relax. Feel your body begin to soften. And as you breathe in next, imagine you're taking in the fresh air of the moment now. And as you breathe out, you're releasing any tension in your body. Breathing in pure energy of this moment. Breathing out anything that is not of this moment. And now keeping your attention on your breath, just stop trying to do anything with the breath. Just observe it. Observe your natural rhythm of breathing right now. And just observe how it feels to be in your body and to breathe. Maybe feel the air as it enters in your nose feels cool or fresh. Maybe feel your chest rise. Then as you breathe out through your mouth, maybe feel the air is warm and feel your chest fall. And just allow yourself to be in the experience of this moment, breathing in and breathing out. Just observing, no judgment. And if your mind starts to wander, just come back to the breath. Back to experiencing your inhale. Feel the air enter into your body. Feel it in your nostrils. Feel it in the back of your throat. As you exhale, feel the air leaving your body. And just allow the simple experience of your breath to root you into this now moment. And now bring your awareness to the space between the breaths. Instead of focusing on the inhale and the exhale, notice that after you inhale, there's just a natural pause before you exhale. And likewise, after you exhale, there's just a small pause before you take your next breath. And just notice these small moments of stillness and silence between your breath. And begin to feel how these moments are as much a part of your breathing as the inhale and the exhale. And again, if any distractions come in, just exhale them away and come back to your breath. And then as you're focusing on your breath, you may see if you can notice the subtle quality of your mind right now. Is your breath calm? Or is there some tension in the breath? Is the breath shallow or is it deep? And we're not going for any objective here, so don't judge yourself, just observe. The idea here is to be fully present with who and how you are right now. Observing whatever's happening in your body, whatever's going on in your mind, and just know that there's no right or wrong way to be in this moment. And now, just continuing to breathe easily, allow some part of you to sort of move up above you and observe you right now. Breathing, practicing this meditation. And as you're looking down on yourself, do so from the eyes of Source, from the eyes of the non judgmental universe who knows everything about you, knows without judgment, knows your worthiness, knows the perfection that is you right now. Also knows why you're here. And as you're observing yourself, just notice if there's any intentions or seeds that are within you, within your heart, within your mind, within your soul. And allow yourself, imagine that you're bringing these intentions into this moment, bringing your focus to what you would like to seed now and into the future. And you can imagine every intention is a seed, and you can decide if you're going to place the seed in your heart or maybe place the seed in that ceramic bowl for your altar. But really feel the sacredness of you right now. The you that's floating above you looks with eyes of love and knows that everything about you is perfect and that everything about your energy is sacred. And really honor each of those seeds that you're placing into your heart or into that bowl. And then when you're ready, just come, bring the part of you that's floating above you back into your body. Come back into this physical vessel. Come back to your breath. Experiencing the breath as a tool that we have all the time to help us come present, to help us be in this powerful, sacred, present moment. And as we wrap this meditation up, just take a moment to appreciate this simple act of your breath. And see if you can feel that the truth in this moment, there's no need to strive for anything more right now. Everything is perfect as it is. And we're going to slowly start to come back to this gathering. Maybe begin to notice the sounds and sensations around you again. And if your eyes have been closed, you can slowly start to open them. And then just taking a moment to acknowledge the space that you've created for yourself and the seeds that you have planted. Thank you guys for being here. That is the extent of what I had planned for our gathering today. Tomorrow is the new moon. And tomorrow I will kind of in the same style-ish of the reciprocity challenge. I'm just going to post a blog post You can interact with it every day. You can interact with it never, or everything in between. But I'm just going to start to give us some things to contemplate if we feel like it's a good time to contemplate. I love the idea of bringing meditation. Vanessa and I were talking about this into the new year, and doing so with the lunar cycle feels really powerful to me. Starting it on the new moon, I sat there for a second. I thought, yeah, we have to start this on the new moon. That's how we gather. So, anybody have anything they want to share, or any comments, or any questions, or anything at all? Hamlet wants to wish you all a happy new year. I don't know if you can hear him. Okay, well, I'm grateful for you all. I'm gonna, I think next Sunday I'm gonna do some more, present something about the Mayan calendar before we get into our meditation. But with that being said, if there's any ideas that come to your mind, or anything that you come across that you find interesting, consider that maybe you find it interesting for a reason. And if you want to share it with me, let me know. So I kind of like the idea of continuing to learn and remember and explore and all that stuff. So, all right, with that, we are complete. Thank you guys. Happy new moon. Happy new year.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good to see you. All right, guys, take care. Be well. Have a good Sunday.